Ed M. Weiser of Levittown, PA, passed away Saturday, May 2nd at Lower Bucks Hospital. He was 89 and just only a few days short of 90. Born on May 13, 1930 in Philadelphia to Harold and Ruth Altman Weiser, Ed spent most of his adult life in Levittown community. And that by his sister Nancy. Ed was a proud combat veteran of the U.S. Air Force and served in the Korean War. Ed was a compassionate, caring, and giving person with a great sense of humor. Over the years, he was an active volunteer to numerous organizations. In the community, he was past officer and post surgeon of our post, VFW 6393, where he initiated many activities to benefit the veterans and the community in general. Ed was also a past president, president emeritus, and was involved in other leadership positions at the Unitarian Universalist Association. Way too numerous to mention. There are other examples of Ed's involvement in the community where his actions benefited many people. Ed was beloved by his family and respected by all family members and friends. He will be deeply missed by his companion of 40 years, Gloria, and by other family members and friends. He is survived by his daughters, Karen and Amanda, Debbie and her husband, Alex, son, David Weiser, grandchildren, Amber, Nicholas, Samantha, Melissa and her husband, Christopher, Nicole and her husband, Charles, Paul, and great-grandchildren, Emily, Alexander, Penelope, Ella, and Lucas. Extended family, Patrick, Jason, Holly, and her husband, Ray, and Cassandra, their daughter. Ed is also survived by his ex-wife, Cynthia, the mother of their 4 children, of Vero Beach, Florida. Ed was also very active in other associations, specifically on Post 6393.
On behalf of all veterans, I present this evergreen tribute as a symbol of our undying relationship and love for our comrade, Edward M. Weiser.
In honor of Edward M. Weiser and his commitment and service to others, I place these white flowers as a symbol of pure, unselfish. Yeah. Yeah. Unselfish devotion. May each of us seek to emulate such pure, unselfish devotion to God, our country, our profession, and our loved ones. I love that. Love that.
On top of the evergreen and white flowers, I present these yellow flowers as a memorial to the bright, sunny, joyful times we've had together. As we age, and with the aid of our memory, we can relive and enjoy again those happy and special times we had together.
On behalf of our glorious republic, for whose integrity Edward and his fellow comrades willingly served, I place the flag of the United States. It's an emblem of our country and a symbol of the individual's personal and liberty.
The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. For you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comforted me. You prepare a table for me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup runs over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life. And I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. In light of the promises God has given us in His Word, we now commit Edward Maurice Weiser to the Lord. May we find comfort as we remember the scripture that says, God, keep me trustful in your love. Give me strength for today and hope for tomorrow. To your loving hands, I commit Ed's spirit. And this is the Aaronic blessing from Numbers. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, speak to Aaron and his sons and his daughters, saying, this is the way you shall bless the Lord. This is the way you shall bless the children of Israel. Say to them, the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Amen.
Bugler, sound taps, present arm. Two. Ladies and gentlemen, we thank you for allowing us to come before you to pay this final tribute to our friend Ed. You touched us all. On the way in here today, my radio was tuned to Lebanon Town 1490, listening to the Dennis Ostakovi's polka hour. It was musical. He was happy. He taught us to step smartly. So as best as we can, we step smartly from this gap. Thank you.
My name is Alex Archimedes. I was Ed's son-in-law, and on behalf of the family and other loved ones in Ed's life, I'd like to thank you all for being here tonight. I've known Ed for 45 years, and Ed always had that great sense of humor, albeit a little corny at times. But we all remember the corny jokes that we hear over and over again, but they were just part of who he was. So, you know, that's one great thing that we always have in our memory. Ed cared about people greatly, and you can see especially throughout his life and in the later years where he volunteered so much time to numerous organizations. And these organizations meant so much to him because he wanted to help people. The other people that were important to Ed's life were his parents, his family, his friends, and they were always on the top of his mind because he wanted to be there for them. One story I would like to relay that just shows you how much he cared about the individuals in his life, especially Gloria, his companion of 40 years, was a story that I think was so touching that when he was in the ICU, he had a piece of paper in his hands, and it was Gloria's phone number. So that's how much Gloria meant to him and the other people in his life. So with that, we thought the best way for everybody to appreciate Ed was to hear readings of his own words from family and friend members. So if we could ask you to come up and, Rich, were you going to announce the people? Order. Okay.
Corey? Okay, Amanda.
This is my girlfriend Dawn. We've been friends for a really long time, and my dad was her dad too. So this is a poem that he wrote for his parents, and this is a picture of that when he was an infant. It's called The 80-Year-Old Photograph. Who is the smiling babe in coverlet? Does he smile at the world awaiting him? What ship will he sail? What ocean will he travel on his journey of life? Will hope appear on the horizon? Will the sail be calm? Or will all his dreams be lost in maelstrom? We travel know that day his ship will land on shore, from which there is no return. Will he embrace that place or weep for dreams unfulfilled? This child is known to me. He is I, and I still smile at the world. He wrote this September 23rd, 2008, and that's Gloria's birthday. Dedicated to she who birthed me, Ruth Altman Weiser, his mom.
Corey now? All right. All right. So Jason has something to read from me.
In Ed's own words, it is reported that when someone asked Mr. Gandhi what his message was, he answered, "My life is my message." I have thought long and hard about this statement to discover if it had any relevance in my life. Whether we admit the possibilities of agreement, we all have lived out our lives in such a manner as to leave behind snippets of our identity for those who remain behind. In my opinion, we have created signposts for others to follow or ignore that reveal our humanness. It may be that some of what we have experienced is not to be shared with others. Then again, there is much more that shines a light on the pride we have in other experiences and attitudes. Is my life my message? If you are happy in my presence or overjoyed to hear my voice or receive a letter, yes, that is my message. When you share your private moments with me because you trust me knowing I will carefully think about your words and, if requested, offer sage advice, well then yes, my life is my message. When I see beauty in the midst of horror, that is my message. If I do not agree with your life path, but love you just the same, yes, again, my message is my life. If I fall in love and am not tempted to look elsewhere, my message is clear. During the moments I volunteer my efforts to support a cause that aids other human beings, my message is clear. As we play music together or have a discourse of the meaning of life, I hope you experience my message. Although we may not agree on form, you are receiving my message. Across the table at lunch, you look at me with joy and love of my presence and reminds us that my life is my message. I spoke of war, my experiences and conclusions that led you to understand my dedication to duty, yet my abhorrence of the savagery that destroys the life of another or others, so that you would understand what my life message is. Those instances when I have made some comment that smacks of irony causing you to laugh, that is part of my life message. And when I openly weep on the occasion of a piece of music or cogent phrase in the midst of a sentence, or when I call to mind the gratitude I feel for so many people in my life who believe I have brought something special to their doorstep, you then understand the value I place on my life message. To my knowledge, I have made little impact on the world beyond my own borders, yet it is enough. It is enough to relish the thought I have made some difference in the lives of others, and before I forget, all my life as it plays out over the years. When you speak of me and then move on to walk your life steps, I hope you might take some comfort in knowing you were important to me and I honored your life message. March 14th, 2010.
Thank you. And now Bill Christenberry.
I have the privilege of knowing Ed for, I guess, about 20 years. And he was more than a friend, he was a brother. I used to kid him that he was the really older brother I never had. He has affected our lives. I'm going to read a poem called The Future Awaits that he wrote in 1981, almost 40 years ago. And yet I feel like he wrote it for us right here, right now, for all of us. And it's just a short little poem, but it really has an impact for me. The future awaits. The dead are to be buried. You are not allowed to open the coffin lid to gaze at the past. Allow the past rest. Permit it to live within itself. Extend a sympathetic hand to yourself. Mourn, yes. Wail a little, yes. Suffer a little longer, but live. Live for yourself. Thank you, Ed.
And Jim Harvey.
As we know, Ed loved words, and he used to regularly submit to our newsletter at the fellowship. Here's something about his childhood that he wrote. During my boyhood, I had been a Boy Scout, a member of the Civil Air Patrol, an air raid messenger during World War II, a soccer player at Olney High School, the 30th Police District, and the Germantown Boys Club, as well as the Brit Israel Council, the first all-Jewish soccer club in Philadelphia. This team was primarily composed of Jewish players from Europe whose families survived the Holocaust and immigrated to the United States. Football, or as we call it, soccer, is the major European sport, and I learned more about the game playing with them than any other club. Years later, when I was discharged from the United States Air Force, I attended a college in New Jersey. I played soccer on the squad at Rider College. When I was a family man, I became a soccer coach for children from 8 to 10 in my township. David, my son, was one of the better players on the team. We had a 13-game season and we went undefeated. I had never coached soccer before, and to this day, I still remember that when the awards were handed out at the dinner, the other coaches were less than enthusiastic about our achievement. Why was this? Who was this upstart? The answer was that I knew something they did not know or understand. They believed that winning was everything, even to the point that they would keep the girls and the weaker players on the bench to win. I felt sorry for the parents, who, by the way, did not question this scenario, and of course the children. Of course, I was interested in winning, but I believed that the children were there to have fun, to try to win, and to learn the value of cooperation and teamwork, and to accept loss as part of competition, and no child was ever benched. A highlight of my coaching experience occurred when I was dealing with an 8-year-old girl whose face was disfigured from birth. Kim became the best player on the team, becoming an important player in college and on a special international team. She is married and is a mother of a daughter. I'm very pleased that I was her first coach, February 2010.
Thank you. Now, Nancy.
These words were written about Ed by Jody Thompson, and I believe this was right after his passing. Ed Weiser was an integral beat in our congregation's rhythm for 40 years. Whether the steady thump on his drum in the band or the scratch of his pen on his order of service, Ed's pulse was our own. Nearly every Sunday, he would be joined by his harmony, Gloria Britonis. The duo always hit the right note together. It was a part of this community that Ed found his soaring melody. Whether honoring those who came before him or chatting with a newcomer during coffee hour, Ed welcomed all into his composition. UUFLB is missing a voice from its song, yet perhaps because of that voice, how can we keep from singing? We miss you, Ed. Jody Thompson.
Now, Gloria, would you like to?
It was only 21 when the Earthquake made that portrait of him. You can see the devilish smile, the twinkle in his eyes. He's my soulmate, my lover, my heart's companion. He's with me every minute of every day and night. I could read all these, just one little poem. What do I have folded with thorns still? He wrote this in 1982, shortly after we met, and it's called Walk With Me. Now, we were, in those days, into history and older times, and we were looking back a lot because we had been through so much pain. Walk with me down shady lanes, near roaring trains. Walk with me along the Strand, near the gazebo, to hear the band. Walk with me over the hills, near houses, to smell pies on windowsills. Walk with me through the forest still, near rippling stream and rill. Walk with me, my love, hands entwined, and I'll tell thee, my love is thine. For thee, glory, my dearest, Valentine's Day, 1982. Little did he know that we would spend most of our lives walking. I wouldn't let him pass the morning without going for a morning walk or a jog. He was a very good runner. I was running about 10 years before I met him. But he just started out cold, and he was wonderful. He would beat me in the races. That annoyed me a lot. So we walked through Europe, we walked through Asia, we walked in Egypt, Mexico, Ireland, Canada. We walked constantly up in the mountains, on the seashore. We go for walks. So he was very prophetic when he wrote this. When he asked me to walk with him, because I sure did. And I was happy to do it. Every moment with him was heaven, absolute heaven. He blessed our lives with his essence, his decency, and his humor. His kindness, love, enthusiasm, and positive attitude were contagious. Be the carrier of innate goodness, as Ed was. This is for my daughter in Mexico, Patrice. She wanted us to have that message. And I wanted to mention that written on his tombstone, he says, easy Ed, touched hearts, eternally loved. Thank you, Ed, for giving us the gift of your life for almost 90 years. And maybe we could have
Do we have a few more? Yeah.
He wants to come here. He's waiting at back right there. You can just do it.
You want
And then we can continue,
to?
okay?
That's fine. That was wonderful.
He had such a Celtic soul, this man, listen to God. It's amazing. All right, Suzanne.
Although I only met with Ed a few times, when he still retained his memories and ability to remember the events of the previous 15 minutes, it's amazing to me how I felt I did know him. The essence of his personality and character remained even once his short-term memory left him. There is no doubt that Ed loved you. There is no doubt that Ed loved life and living. There were many things that Ed could not remember, but the things he did remember are things many people never learned. He knew that responding to a situation with anger never resulted in a good ending. He was so proud that there was never an exchange between the two of you that was driven by anger, that the relationship was built on trust, understanding, and love for each other. That was his truth. And it shone on his face and his overall bearing. His disease had to be frustrating to someone who took care of his children and of himself his entire life. Yet he was always patient and willing to try if a stranger, me, tried to show him how to change his hearing aids or some other task. He had so little space in which to live, and yet he tried to keep that space neat, clean, and full of photos of those he loved. Ed was a true example of profiles and courage, and I'm glad he touched my life. Even if Ed didn't know it, I do.
Thank you. Tracy?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Tracy Laverty, and I'm honored to say that I've been a friend of Ed and Gloria's for 25 years. We first met at the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Lower Bucks, where I felt shy coming there by myself, but I was immediately welcomed by a group of members, including Ed and Gloria. And it was because of them and others that I knew immediately I wanted to become a part of this interesting group of caring people. Ed had this type of personality, and I believe everyone in here already knows this, where he felt it was important to make everyone feel a sense of belonging and everyone feel welcome. And he sought out newcomers. If he would see someone sitting by themselves, he would approach them. One of the first things I noticed about Ed was that he liked to talk. He really liked to talk. And while he had a great deal of knowledge, there were 3 subjects that came up in every conversation that I've ever had with him, and I bet the same people here have had the same experience. It was his family, his love of the bright and beautiful Gloria, and being a Unitarian Universalist in our congregation. It seemed like he almost wanted to shout. He had such enthusiasm for these things. I thought it was very honorable. And actually, one of my last conversations with him, he was in Statesman on the phone, and he didn't have his hearing aid in, so he wasn't sure who I was. But we still continued the conversation, and those same topics came up, so that just proved it. On one of our Zoom services that we had, Gloria mentioned that it's sad during this pandemic that Ed's life can't be celebrated like it really should be, with a big 3-day celebration. He touched many people, he did many things. So it prompted me to send a card with a couple of my memories, and then Gloria asked me to share them here. Only problem was I already sent the card, so I had to think about what I said in there. But there were a few examples of Ed's brilliance. He taught English through welcoming the stranger and improved the lives of immigrants and their families. I was saying his memories will go on and on. Even if we can't celebrate like we'd really like to, he's touched people, and that's going to go through generations. He helped people in our fellowship, and maybe people joined because of knowing him or got involved, and that changed people's lives. I remember he had us at one point collecting eyeglasses to help people in third world countries, and that could make a big difference in their ability to earn an income. I know he was big with the veterans. I think everyone knew that Ed was a really good guy who you could count on, and that domino effect with the people that he interacted with and then they interacted with, it is definitely going to live through the generations. Ed actively promoted social justice, and he didn't just talk the talk, he walked the walk. He actively participated in groups in the community that wanted to focus on fairness and social justice. And he spoke up. If he saw something that went against his principles, he would speak up and he would try to come up with a solution to make positive changes. Again, I know I'm preaching to the choir, and everyone here probably has many more examples of his kindness, compassion, and action-oriented decisions. I would just like to end with two of my fond memories. The first one was that Ed, in his late 70s, when our fellowship was in need of a president, and he really didn't feel that he was very techno-savvy, which we were moving into a time where you did need to have some technical expertise. He volunteered to be our president and got himself up to speed with some assistance with the technology and led us for a year. My other memory is a personal one. As a middle school teacher, I feel that students learn a lot from individuals who've had experiences and are willing to share about them rather than just reading things in a textbook, etc. So as part of our Veterans Day assembly at my school, I asked Ed to come and speak. He was a great speaker. He didn't focus on combat. He focused on lessons and war, just what we can learn from things. So he did this for a few years, and then I got a new principal who had a strange idea that if you wanted to have a speaker come in, they had to be a family member. Ed and I both thought this was a bit silly, so we just made up a little white lie and said that he was my uncle. And since that time, it's been many years, sometimes people would look at me at fellowship, like, why do you call Ed Uncle Ed? That was why. So from that point forward, despite us having no genealogical connection, I called him Uncle Ed. And I'm so proud of the life that he lived so well that I wish he really was my uncle.
Gail, did you have something else?
This is just something I ran across and felt like it really reminded me of Ed. So Ed, your soul was the embodiment of love, joy, and peace. Your presence brought with it the light of the sun and all the stars in the galaxy. Your love can be felt across the universe. We are so grateful to have met you, to have known you, to have truly seen you. You will always be alive in our hearts and in the hearts of those whose lives you've touched. You are an infinite being, a boundless spirit on a journey back to the source of all life. Though your physical form may not be with us, you are still here, present in all life, present in the love that we feel, present in the light we see, ever present, ever loving, ever near. We love you and give deep gratitude for the way you lived your life with so much presence, authenticity, passion, compassion, joy, love, and peace.
And now we have Corey, who's come all the way from Washington. And we're very happy to have you here. I know Ed would be thrilled. I know Gloria's thrilled. What would you like to say? Well.
My name is Karen Andrew Weiser. That was my brother. Corey's been with me for 30 years that nobody ever picked up, so at least none of my family. But I only can watch in absolute gratitude and faith of everything all you people have said, because that is exactly who my dad was. Yet we all had differences when we all grew up and we were young, but Dad really locked into it, especially when he started with Parents Without Partners and met the love of his life, Gloria. My father, I talked to my father every night for a couple of years. I called him at 8:30 his time, and I always catch him in bed, so I knew he would be there. And he was the most remarkable man. Every time I saw him, he had another story to tell. So he would do these speeches with children in schools and such, and I really would like to read some of the things that children wrote back to him. And pardon me if I'm going to say I'm going to say it a bit of verbatim, as it were, because there's a key way. My father's name is written in the top by, I guess, the teacher, and so I will be saying it phonetically as well, which gives some idea of possibly the children's age. It says, "Thank you for fighting for our freedom. Thank you for your sacrifice. Thank you for your service. You are such a great veteran. I hope you keep up the great work. So far, you are doing a magnificent job. You're the best veteran ever. Love, Emma." She looks possibly to be about 5 or 6. Another one. Oh, sorry. Later. "Thank you for fighting for our freedom." I think this was probably a comment that was passed around for children. "I thank you for everything. We miss you. We honor you because you are our heroes. Love, Al." And this seems to be common, so we're going to do besides thank you for our freedom is probably something not possibly somebody in the room suggested that they say. And we may your lead for the USA. Love, Jake. Thank you for fighting for our freedom. Thank you for protecting everybody. I like your defense. Elaine. Thank you for fighting for our freedom. I love when you help us for love. I love when you forgive. I love you very much. Signed, Kendall. So this is the basically the overall. I hope you have good luck after. Thank you for fighting for freedom. I hope that for God, Almighty Father, our freedom is our power of freedom. Our heart is our power too. We are the young soldiers of this school and everybody in 3rd grade. So that would make about 8. To show them and advance to see their child. Love, sincerely, Emma. And just, writing up this. Thank you for sacrifice. You are such a good veteran to have. Thank you for all that you've done for us. Love you all. So this is typed, not handwritten. This is typed by the teacher, evidently. Hello, Mr. Weiser. My name is Dee Dee Harrison Barrington, and I'm a 2nd grade teacher at Chip Elementary School, where your great-granddaughter Emily Hall is a student. We have been learning about Veterans Day and how important the day is to our country. During this time, we have 2nd graders write letters to a veteran that are connected, and to some students in our class. We're writing to 3 veterans this year, and we definitely wanted to include you. Thank you so much for your service, and I hope you enjoyed the sweet letter my students wrote to you. I wanted to thank you and wish you a happy holiday. Signed, Dee Dee Harrison, head 2nd grade teacher. This is just a small collection of who my dad was. My dad was corny, as has been said. He was repetitive. He loved to tell the same joke. He loved to explain how much he loved Gloria and things like when they went to, because every year they would say open, every year they'd go to a different country. And he loved to talk about what happened when they went to Paris. And he said that when he's always in love with her and Gloria, and she, apparently they hold hands everywhere. And so when they went to Paris, apparently a flock of young ladies gathered around Gloria and asked for her autograph because they're so, Gloria is has such lovely grace, and she has such beautiful clothes. She did herself in such a magnificent way. I don't think there was ever a day that she left the house without dressing for a wedding or a reception of any kind. Gloria's always been a lovely, lovely woman. My father adored her and worshipped the ground she walked on. And so he has always, in fact, he calls all of his children Gloria. He calls my brother Gloria. When my dad talked to me, he called Debbie Gloria. He called Alex Gloria. My brother was often Gloria. So Jason was often Gloria, because he had much more connection to Gloria than the rest of them. So I just want to add that I am so grateful to have had Ed Weiser in my life. And every night I spoke with him, I learned something new every day. And he had essentially left me with stories and remembrances that the only story that he taught me the most was honor, how to stand up for your word, how to stand up and you do not require a contract, or a handshake with you should be good enough. And he always made me laugh every single time. And so I miss my father. I don't think I'll ever stop. A great woman has been in my life, and I don't think it can ever be close. But I thank you all for being here. I really do. It shows that my dad, not only do you that touched millions of lives because he sent food and clothes and glasses and so forth to people who, you know, hairbrushes and combs. If he could take the collection for something, he would. So with that in mind, my father's many blessings and gratitude, I will say thank you again. And God bless all of you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Sorry.
I've known Ed also at least 25 years. He was a wonderful man. I was thinking today, he reminded me of my early years as a teacher when I would give out these little mini marshmallows to reward somebody for doing something well. And I think of Ed as a big marshmallow. When he comes to you, you feel good. You feel good automatically. And as Gil mentioned, it's like the sun. He has a self-deprecating humor that would he'd put you down too. No problem with that. He'd put you down many times. But he would put himself down just as much, and it was all in humor. And it always made people feel great. And his greatest thing, and you've mentioned it many times already, is his love for Gloria. And he did think of this moment that we're in, and our closing words it's basically a poem, as I see it, to Gloria.
Hang on.
Excuse me.
Hang on.
You missed some people still.
I did.
Yeah.
Oh, let me take a break and get people that are not on my list. Okay? We'll do this one at a time.
I'm so sorry. Father gave me this his writings about 15 years ago, 10, 15 years ago. He had this one called You, Debbie, because I was my mother. I had no father, but he was my father. He was my dad. My blood is not your blood. I have transmitted no genes to you. We met as strangers, and miracle of miracles, we became dad and daughter. We don't speak deep thoughts yet, but we do use language to protect our emotions. I know that I love you, and I know that I have loved and admired you for decades. Was this bond between us ever fresh, ever familiar, ever loving? I wish I knew you better yet. I know you and pass my love to you 1,000-fold. There is no one like you. This is 2009.
Is there anyone else who would like to say?
I have one more. Oh, please. One more reading. As I mentioned before, Ed had a deep respect and love for his grandparents and parents. And especially in his later years, he always talked about his parents and grandparents whenever we go out to lunch. In fact, as you all know, the repeated stories, I heard them many, many times. But they were just ingrained in his mind. And it just showed the passion that he had for those individuals. So this poem was written by him in October 2009, and it's entitled, In My Grandparents' House. Of all the places where I have seen loving faces, 'twas that day in November I will always remember. Grandmother Katie and grandfather David at the door led us across the polished floor, embracing and kissing. Could anything be missing? We joined the clan, women and men, children in tow, to a table whose weight made it bow. A bird in a sauce, a salad to toss, bowls with beans, an assembly of greens, carrots and pies, and more delights for the eye, an abundance of food that set the mood. For joy and laughter, I hear ever after. The glasses clink, my uncles wink, my father, sister, and mother, and I, the son and brother, together as one, till our lives were done. Of time altogether, regardless of weather, under a coverlet of protection of our love and affection, David waving goodbye while Katie would cry. Ed Weiser.
Absolutely, yeah.
I just have a funny story real quick. Had something to do with the
when I was younger, we had a milkman. I'm 54, so we had a milkman. His name was Gene. And you remember, right? So he would come to the house and he would drop off the bottles and pick up the old ones. And I always followed my dad to the door. And he would say, "Are you going to take her this week?" And I would look at him. And I said, I had my eyes open and he looks at me and goes, "Well, you know you're not mine, right?" And I was like, "What?" And then Gene would say, "No, I don't have any room in the truck for you." And I was like, "Huh?" And he said, "Yeah, you're not mine." And I was looking, he goes, "Well, come on, you know you don't look like me." And I didn't look like anybody. I was the only redhead with fair skin, and everybody, including Debbie, all had brown hair and olive skin and green eyes. I had red hair, fair skin, and blue eyes. So I'd start crying. He'd walk me through the house, and everybody on the mantle was pictures of everybody, and of course I'm the oddball, so he'd show me all the pictures, and he's like, "There's Karen and David and Debbie. Do you look like them?" No. So Gene said he'll come back next week when the truck is empty. And I'm like, okay, but I'm crying, so I don't want to go. This is my house. And sometimes I would hear my mother, "Leave her alone," you know, and then Gene would play along. He thought it was comical. And I didn't think it was comical. So I wasn't told Debbie was my half sister until after we moved out of the house when Debbie had gotten older and married. So she was 20 when she got married.
Yeah.
I wasn't told until we moved to Village of Pembroke, and I started to cry again because I was like, "No, she's not." So just a little funny story. I said, "Why did you tell me?" He said it wasn't important. He's like, "We're all family. That's your sister." So it was really funny that he never told me. He just didn't think it was important because we're all family. So I thought that was kind of unique.
Classic Ed.
That wasn't funny though.
Is there anybody else with this name? Well, his undying love for Gloria is demonstrated by this poem, which will be our closing poem. If I should ever leave you, whom I love, to go along the silent way, grieve not, nor speak of me with tears, but laugh and talk of me, as if I were beside you there. I'd come, but could I find a way? But would not tears and grief be barriers? And when you hear a song or see a bird I love, please do not let the thought of me be sad, for I am loving you just as I always have. You were so good to me. There are many things to say to you. Remember that I did not fear. It was leaving you that was so hard to bear. We cannot see beyond, but this I know. I loved you so, 'twas heaven here. Thank you, Ashley. And now I believe we have a procession out.